Hello and welcome to another Mr. Castillo's tutorials. Today we're going to be doing some fruits, but we're going to be adding shadows with its complementary color. So instead of assuming to use black for shadowing, we're actually going to use the opposite color in the color wheel to create some highlights and some shadows, some values. As you can see, these bananas, the brown shadows here, if you were to make a painting of these bananas, you will create these brown shadows with its opposite yellow, and the opposite of yellow is violet. So we're gonna get started with our bananas, and the first thing you need is, of course, your yellow paint, some violet paint, you need some violet paint and a bit of white for highlights. You also need water, brushes, scrap paper, paper towels, and everything you need to clean up and be neat and organized. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some yellow paint, because the bananas are predominantly yellow, and just a hint of the violet paint. We actually don't need that much. That's all we need. Now I know it looks dark on the screen, but it is violet. Alright, so we're gonna take our brush and we're actually gonna paint our bananas yellow. Okay, I'm gonna go as neatly and as fast as I can. Now I'm the type of painter that likes to blend while the paint is wet, but I found out that many students have problems because the paint dries up on them or they over pour paint. So I'm gonna do it a different method than I'm normally used to. So finish painting our bananas as fast and as I need as I can. Okay. I'm the type of person that always has to have bananas at home. Nobody eats them except me, maybe my baby daughter. But if I don't need them, they tend to spoil. As you saw in the photograph, those were actually bananas from home. Alright, well there we go. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of yellow and a tiny drop of purple, violet, that much. And we're going to mix it until it starts turning into a darker brown. And a little bit more at a time. I like to do it a little bit at a time, because if I overdo it, then it's hard to go back. Remember, yellow is weak. Alright, well, I think I like this brownish. You can see the difference between this yellow and this yellow? Actually, it looks like a mustard yellow. And that's what I'm going to apply to my banana. So, bananas are easy because you have this line dividing the banana. So, what I'm going to do is just add some shadow underneath the banana, like so. There we go, see? Assuming the light's coming from above. And there we go. Now I'm going to do the same for all three bananas. Oops, get out a little bit of line there. My paint is actually drying up. There we go. And the last banana right here. And there we go. Yeah, see what a difference it makes? Bananas with shadows. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. I'm going to pour it here, just a bit, just a drop, and I'm actually going to put some highlights on the banana right here. Gentle. Oops, too much. Put some yellow, and there we go. A little bit of highlight, a little bit of highlight there, a little bit of highlight there, a little bit of highlight there, and there we go. And just a bit to make it pop. And there we go. We got our bananas. Now you want to be a perfectionist and you want to go over some of those dark lines. Well, just take some straight out violet and go over those lines. As long as you're nice and neat. So instead of coming back with black, I'm coming back with a little bit of violet. See that? Alright, well, let's move on to the apple. And the apple is a bit challenging because the apple's a bit rounder. So now I need some red paint, assuming it's a red delicious apple. And the opposite of red, can you remember the opposite of red on the color wheel? The opposite of red is green. So I'm actually gonna apply some paint directly on the apple like that, and I'm gonna save this for later, or I'm gonna actually put it on the little bit on the book right there, just a hint, because we don't actually need a whole lot. And we'll come back to the green. For now, let's paint the apple red, as red as we can. Working fast, working fast. Now this one I do like to paint while it's wet, because I'm going to create a blending effect. There you go. So I'm going to try to keep the paint as moist as I can. And you can see that I saturated it with lots of paint. There we go. Now we got to decide where the light source is coming from. Is the light source coming from above, from the left, or from the right? Well, in my case I'm going to choose that it's coming from this direction. Okay, and it's just an assumption. Okay, so I got some red paint on my brush. Okay, I'll take some green paint. I'm gonna mix it up right here, and as you can see, it's turning to like a maroonish brown. That's what I'm looking for, like a maroonish brown. There we go, see? And then while my paint is still wet on my apple, I am going to go a back and forth motion until that paint from my brush disappears. Okay, it's still a bit too wet. You can see some streaks on there, right? Take a little bit more, and then just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there we go. Now it did turn a little bit darker, as you can see, but not enough dark for my taste. So what I'm going to do is going to take some straight up green paint and then apply it to the very bottom of my apple, and I'm making sure that This apple is, the paint is still wet, and I'm just adding a little bit at a time and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, blending that paint onto the apple until it disappears. Okay, if you like your need to go back with some, go back and put some more brown that you made with your red and the green, and there we go. Okay, and there's the shadow on my apple. Okay, same thing as the banana. We're gonna put a little bit of highlight. I can take some white directly and blend it into the red, making it turn pink. And there we go. We got a bit of highlight. And of course, we can't forget the leaf. We gotta put some, the leaf is green, so we're gonna come back, put some green on it. And there we go. Maybe put a little bit more because it's too weak. Saturate it with a little bit more green. And we actually can put some shadows on this green leaf. Guess what color we're gonna use to put some shadows? That's right. We're gonna use some red. So we can take a little bit of red paint, a little bit, it's a little bit too much, and create some shadows on the leaf with red paint. And there's our apple. Okay, and finally we're gonna do our orange, and our orange of course is orange, so you need some orange paint. And what is the opposite of orange? Can you remember the opposite of orange in the color wheel? The opposite of orange is blue. Okay, so these two complement each other. See how nice they work together? When you mix them, you make some brown. So when you mix two complementary colors, I'm actually going to apply directly on there. When you mix two complementary colors, you get brown. But the browns are different depending on the complementary colors you mix. I like my favorite brown comes from a mixture of orange and blue. So here we go. Gonna paint this orange entirely, working as fast and as neat as I can. There we go. And again, saturated with paint. Now, you gotta remember that blue is also a very strong color compared to the orange. Okay, I like orange. I think it's underrated. I think people should wear more orange. I'm wearing my orange shirt today. Alright, now we're gonna take a bit of blue. Right, so we'll take a little bit of blue, just a hint of blue. Alright, and this time I'm gonna mix it up on the paper. So we got our blue, and we got our yet orange, and we're actually gonna mix it. Whoa, and I think I did too much blue. See how dark that turned out to me? I'm actually gonna scoop some more, and I'm gonna do it out here on the side. And this is more what I'm looking for. Alright, I actually could use these two. I could use this on the bottom part of the orange and this one somewhere in the center. So that's what I'm gonna do. And there we go, we got some brown. Now I know it's really hard to see on the screen, but this brown is actually not that dark as it looks in the camera. And this one does look like a greenish, but it's actually a darker brown. So I'm gonna take, and where's my light source coming from? Well, this time I'm gonna choose coming from this direction. The light's coming from this direction, so this side of the orange is gonna be darker. And as you can see, I'm applying some brown. Now, right now the paint is a bit too wet. I could have waited for it to dry and applied it, but you know, for sake of time, I'm gonna wait. I'm actually gonna do it as fast as I can, and I'm actually gonna take some of that dark brown that I made earlier. I'm gonna put it here on the edge of the orange. As you can see, it's turning dark almost immediately, and I'm careful to blend into the orange. And here we go. Take some more of that brown, light brown that I made. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So see, I'm doing a circular motion because the orange obviously is it's spherical. Here you go. So a bit of that brown at the bottom of the orange over here. Okay, I think you could do a better job than me. I think I did a poor job considering. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more. I'm not satisfied with this brown, with this shadow. And there we go. There we go. A lot more. Back and forth, using that circular motion until the paint disappears from my brush. Now, if I think I went too far high up, well, I can come back with some orange and bring it back down, see? But bring it back down, do not go back up. And there. And of course, take some white paint, and let's do a little bit of highlight over here, and blend that into the wet paint. And there we go. You see, we didn't have to use black. And you shouldn't use black on your work of art unless it's absolutely necessary. Black is not in nature. The blackest black is probably the dead of space, but there's always light traveling to it. Always try to use the opposite color to make shadows. See? Shadows with its opposite color. No black paint. No black paint. And of course, white for highlights. So, always remember, you need your primary colors, your secondary colors, maybe some tertiary colors, and white in your palette. And that concludes today's lesson on shadows with complementary colors. Remember, kids, keep practicing, get better, and remember to use opposites for shadows instead of black. All right, have a good one.